The health of the American economy affects every one of us, but just how healthy is it?
Inflation has increased the price of nearly everything we need to buy for everyday life. And as we head toward the November presidential election, it's likely to be talked about a lot. So we wanted to talk about it with an economist who has tracked the economy for decades about what is happening and what is not. Omaha, Nebraska is more than a 2.5-hour drive from Sioux Falls, but it is home to one of the nation's most recognized and reputable economists, and he knows a lot about our neck of the woods.
The monthly housing price for a house in Sioux Falls is almost doubled over the last couple of years, almost doubled since the pandemic.
Dr. Ernie Goss is the director of the Institute for Economic Inquiry at Creighton University. For more than 2 decades, he has overseen the monthly Mid-America Business Conditions Index, a survey of business leaders in 12 states, including South Dakota. If you ask Dr. Goss if the American economy is on the upswing, the downswing, or no swing at all, he will say it's on the downswing, and one point in particular leads him to that conclusion.
Part-time employment. Part-time employment and dual job holding. A lot of Americans and folks in this part of the nation are having to get 2 jobs to pay for those food and other products that have increased 20 to 30% over the past couple of years.
Price increases that are directly tied to inflation. So much of what is happening right now, according to Dr. Goss, has to do with supply and demand and the price increases that happen as a result when there's not enough supply. And Dr. Goss says that growing areas like Sioux Falls are going to continue to face this challenge for the years to come. And that inflation isn't confined to just one area, as you well know. Dr. Goss says there are increasing prices across the board.
Housing, rents also, food prices, certain food prices, many food prices. We're talking about insurance.
It is full circle economic pain. Housing prices are up because supply is low, and people don't want to leave their existing low interest rate mortgages and jump into a higher rate loan. Rent prices are up because supply is low, though that is changing. Food prices are higher due to increasing labor costs. Insurance costs are higher because existing properties are being valued at higher and higher prices by both cities and counties.
Those are pushing up prices to unaffordable levels for many Americans. And as a result, back to my opening statement, Americans are having to get a second job or a third job.
When I asked Dr. Goss if all this is the result of several different factors coming together, or just one, he told me he pins the blame on a specific Biden administration program.
His program of IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, definitely did not reduce inflation. It's inspired inflation. It's pushed inflationary pressures up.
Push the pressures up, ironically, because the Inflation Reduction Act was meant to put more money into more people's hands, which it did, meaning more people had increased spending power, which increased demand but not supply, and as a result drove prices up. Remember earlier when we talked about Sioux Falls housing prices? Dr. Goss says those are especially problematic, maybe the leading driver of all the economic problems. Listen to what his research has uncovered about how much the average American is paying monthly to buy a home right now.
We're talking about individuals paying between 40 and 50% monthly payments because of insurance growth, because of the housing price growth. That should not be the case. It should be 28 to 29 to 30%.
50% of their monthly income going to housing, when in theory it should be half of that. Inflation is coming down, that's the good news, but
inflation is coming down, but prices aren't coming down.
The most recent numbers show America's inflation rate is at 3.48%, which means overall prices are on average about 3.5% higher than they typically are or should be. 1 year ago, it was at 5%, so progress is being made. But Dr. Goss says it's going to end up being slow progress because while prices can go up quickly, they don't fall nearly as fast.